God has made every day for a reason. Even if you and I can't see it, it's the beginning of something great in your life. Well, good morning and welcome this morning to Timeout. I trust that you're warm and that you've got a hot cup of coffee where you are, taking some time out of your schedule to join me. Thank you for that. Does today matter? You know, yesterday's gone. Tomorrow hasn't come. Now is the only time that you and I have any control over. So does today matter? You know, Timeout is all about being positive and sharing the positivity. So let me just say thank you ahead of time for your support. Now, does today matter in your life? You know, yesterday's gone, as I said before. Tomorrow hasn't come. Now is the only time that you and I have control over. And so I want to say this morning as we start, today matters. Now is the time to live your life. You know, when things go wrong in our lives, we somehow put our lives on pause because we start remembering the things that were in the past as if they were so glamorous, and we start hoping for things in the future that haven't come yet. And you know, our lives all of a sudden just starts to evaporate. You know, the days turn into weeks, the weeks turn into months, and then into years, and before you know it, many days are wasted in your life. Many times are wasted because you and I don't realize that today matters. You know, there's a saying that goes, today is the beginning of the rest of your life. And that is absolutely true. Now, here you say, Jack, you don't understand. I'm going through stuff. I'm really waiting for this thing in the future to happen that will bail me out. I'm really just holding on there because everything is chaotic. Well, let me tell you a story about disappointment that may help you to get a perspective of this. You know, there's a story in Genesis, I think it's 37 and 38 there on, about Joseph, that really he was living the life. He was a young man. He was loved by his father. Everything was going right. He was having dreams about his future. You know, he couldn't have lived a better life, and all of a sudden it changed in a moment. His brothers got jealous about him, and they threw him in a pit. Eventually sold him to Ishmaelites, into slavery, into Egypt. So he went from a son to a slave in a moment. His life changed. You know, then it didn't matter what happened in the past, and it didn't matter about the dreams in the future that he had. He was living in the now, and the now wasn't fun. And so for 13 years, Joseph went through hell and disappointment. And let me just tell you the story. He was sold to into Potiphar's house, one of the commanders of Pharaoh. And God blessed him because I believed he got his attitude right. He started to live in the now. He said, today matters. And God raised him up from that dire situation, and he became almost like second in charge in Potiphar's house. And then something happened. Potiphar's wife was eyeing him and wanted him to sleep with her, and when he refused, she made up a story that he tried to rape her, and all of a sudden he went right back into prison again, and he had to start all over again to work his way up, and he had to say today matters. And eventually God gave him favor again and raised him up. And you know, one day the king's baker and a cupbearer were thrown into prison, and they had dreams, and Joseph interpreted the dream for the cupbearer, and it said in 3 days, he said, you're going to be restored to Pharaoh. And it happened exactly like Joseph said. And as the cupbearer was about to leave, he said, listen, all I'm asking you is just remember me when you get out. I need a break. I need somebody to take me out of this prison. I've been unjustly put here, and I'm a foreigner here in this land. And of course, the cupbearer forgot for another 2 years. So talk about betrayal. Talk about, you know, by your own family. Talk about dire consequences, going into jail unjustly. So talk about just when you've worked your way up, somebody comes and betrays you again, Potiphar's wife, and you're thrown into prison again. Talk about really having to start all over again, and then being forgotten by somebody that you really interpreted a dream for another 2 years. Talk about that and realize that Joseph was that story. And yet in the end, after 13 years of not giving up and living in the now, Joseph was restored to the second most important person in Egypt, and God used him mightily. Now, let me just come back to you this morning where you are. You may say, Jack, I feel all those things. I want to say now is the time that matters. Today matters in your life. Just like I said before, it's all about perspective. If you look at the eagle, they soar high, they see far, and they really see the big picture. You can either be, and I can either be an eagle or we can be a turkey. The turkeys are always cackling and running away because they're running for their lives, because somehow they believe they're going to be somebody's lunch in the future. And they forget to enjoy the now. And so I want to encourage you, when you're going through things, remember these three things. Remember that it's all about perspective. You can be an eagle or a turkey. Remember that today is the beginning of the rest of your life. Also, don't forget that God has made every day for a reason. Even if you and I can't see it, it's the beginning of something great in your life. Don't put it on pause, because yesterday's gone. Tomorrow has not yet come. Now is the only time that you and I have control over. So I want to encourage you, make today count. My name is Jack Windt. You've been watching Timeout, and I'm going to catch you next week.